Hello, I'm Cheryl Sanders, the Interim Associate Vice President for Student Affairs at Del Mar College. I have also had the pleasure of serving as an advisor for the Del Mar College American Association of University Women student organization. I am excited to be celebrating Women's History Month 2022. There's so much value in learning about the history of women. We draw so much motivation, strength, inspiration from those who come before us. The theme for Women's History Month is Women Providing Healing, Promoting Hope, a tribute to caregivers and frontline workers during this ongoing pandemic and a recognition of the countless ways that women have provided both healing and hope for centuries. This is very fitting because nearly 80% of healthcare workers and 83% of workers who provide social assistance, including childcare and emergency services, are women. Women have always put others first, and contributions are often overlooked. This month is important because it honors and prioritizes women. All women should be valued, appreciated, encouraged, and acknowledged for all the contributions and sacrifices that they have made throughout history. The Del Mar College American Association of University Women Student Organization is one way Del Mar College students can get involved. This month and every month, the organization celebrates women's achievements, raises awareness against bias, and takes action for equality.
Hi, I'm Heather Garcia with the Del Mar College Counseling Center, wanting to wish you a happy National Women's Day. You know, for the longest time, women have been made to feel like we need to put ourselves in small spaces. I've often been told that I have a big personality, and to be able to fit into the world at large, I needed to make myself smaller. I'm here to tell you, my words of wisdom to you is that don't make yourself smaller to fit in somebody else's space. If they don't have a large enough space for you, go out and create your own.
My name is Beatrice Alvarado, and I am the chair of the Social Sciences Department. I have my PhD in Psychology, Public Policy, and Law. I teach psychology classes here at Del Mar. Now, with all that being said, you would think that it wouldn't have been a big surprise to me to be asked to speak about International Women's Day, but it really was a surprise to me. I was surprised because I don't think of myself as successful. I thought maybe there has to be somebody out there who's more successful, who could be more inspirational, and I had to realize that was a problem. My thinking was a problem, and I noticed it in a lot of other women that I talked to, that they don't see themselves necessarily as successful because what are our models for success? The people on social media, actresses, people who are prettier, thinner, richer, maybe smarter. But the problem is that when we do things like that, we discount our own successes. And I really wanted to talk about that for International Women's Day. One of the most successful women, most inspirational women in my life is my mom. My mom is a person who sacrificed her education in her early years so that she could have a family, and decided to go back to college when she was about 45 years old. And at the time, she felt unsuccessful. She felt like she was doing things in the wrong order, and she wasn't as smart as the people around her in college, but she kept going and going part-time, and she eventually got her degree, and she is a civil engineer. And that is so inspiring, but at the same time, she doesn't feel successful about it. And me, I sacrificed having a family so that I could get my PhD, and didn't become a mom until I was 38 years old. And yet, when other people look at our lives, they say that person is a success. That person has it all. What we don't see is we don't see the struggles that go into those social media posts. We don't see behind the scenes. And so I wanted to have some time for you guys to think of yourselves as successes today. If you're working toward your goals, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there. You're an inspiration and you're a success. And if there's anything that I have to say about International Women's Day, it is that there are women out there who are rooting for you. I'm one of them. And remember, your success isn't a destination. You're successful now. So believe in yourself the way that I believe in you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
How are you doing? I'm doing okay. My name is Leticia Wilson, and I am the Director of Advising Initiatives at our institution of Del Mar College in Corpus Christi, Texas. And I just wanted to have a little conversation with you. Can we talk? All right. Let me tell you about my story, how I got to the position that I'm in now. Now, know right off the bat that this didn't happen overnight, okay? It certainly did not. Almost 4 decades ago, I started my journey. So I was born a military brat, so I've had the great opportunity to live in the state of Ohio, to live in the country of Germany, to reside here in Texas, and a whole host of other places. So I went to school, got my primary school and secondary school education, went to college, and I said to myself, I am going to be a doctor, medical doctor, that is. So after undergrad, I went to an HBCU, which stands for Historically Black College or University. I went to Wilberforce University in the state of Ohio, graduated with my bachelor's degree, and said, you know what? I still want to be that pediatrician. So went to a post-bac program that lasted a year. And do you know, or should you care? I did not make it. I was asked to leave because I didn't make the grade. So I had to come back home with my tail between my legs, with my whole family back at the house. So it was mi abuela, or my grandmother, and my mother. That's a lot of strong personalities in one house. So you know I was motivated. So I said, you know what? I still got Sally Mae loans to pay. So then I started substitute teaching. So I substitute taught in elementary school, middle school, and high school. And I was like, okay, I can do this. But I didn't want to because I still had in my mindset that I wanted to become a doctor. But I had bills to pay, y'all. I had bills to pay. So at one point I said, you know what? I don't see my gift with secondary, but I do see my gift with higher ed. I then started working with TRIO, Upward Bound UB for Life, just like a student success program, and worked as their head resident director. That's when I found my niche. I said, you know what? I love working with these students because I can be sarcastic and they know that it's coming from a place of care, but I can also be a part of their journey, co-creating a plan for them to meander through higher ed. And that's when I knew that higher ed, working at a community college or a 4-year, was my gift to this world. So then I decided to pursue a master's degree in educational leadership, went through that program, completed. Then the economic downturn hit, and that was around 2008, 2009. So I had the degree, I had the motivation, but the job opportunity was not there. I was discouraged. I was applying for jobs to be a flight attendant. I was applying to teach ESOL overseas. I was applying to all types of jobs. I was trying to be a biological technician in the lab because of my first degree in biology. So at this point, I was saying, I have this graduate degree, I have this master's, and I still can't find an occupation in my field. What's going on? And all the jobs that gave me the opportunity to interview, I wasn't chosen because they said, you don't have enough experience. So then I said, how can I get experience if you don't give me a chance? Circle back. Because I was very diligent, I wasn't going to back down. I was working as a secretary with a master's degree at that point. And I said, this is not going to be my end-all be-all job. I'm going to have this job because I need to pay the bills, but I'm also going to keep applying. And then guess what? An open door came. And I had my first opportunity to work as an academic advisor and escalation specialist at a for-profit institution in Cleveland, Ohio. I was through the roof. I said, yes, Somebody finally gave me the opportunity. I'm going to walk in it. So I walked in it for about a year and 9 months to be exact. And then that school was going through some changes, and I said, it's time for me to look. So at this point, I said, I have some experience under my belt. Where can I look? And I did a national, actually global search. And then I got the call from Del Mar College. And they said, are you still interested in the STEM advisor role here at Del Mar? And if you know anything about applying for jobs, it's a job to find a job, right? Applying, following up, writing cover letters. And so I'd honestly forgotten that I had applied to so many places. So I said, Del Mar. Where's Del Mar? Oh, it's in Corpus. I didn't know anybody in Corpus Christi, Texas at all. But the opportunity presented itself. And once again, those doors opened. And so I walked through them. I had the interview and I knew there was going to be a presentation part. So I studied, I researched the institution. I came up with my PowerPoint. I practiced, I rehearsed, I had my interview. And then shortly thereafter, they said, we want you. We want you, Leticia Wilson, to be our advisor. I was elated, let me tell you. And I quickly moved from the state of Ohio to the state of Texas.
Hello, this is Dr. Erin Mccomb of the History Program of the Department of Social Sciences of Del Mar College. And I've been asked what International Women's History Day means to me, which is surprisingly a more difficult question to answer than I thought, but yet also extremely easy at the same time. If I had an answer, it would be empowerment. I study the history of aviation. I study the history of women astronauts. And yet I look at these amazing empowered women who entered male-dominated spaces in the 80s, in the 90s. And luckily, as a kid, I got to witness that. I got to see women who made the impossible possible. And as cheesy as it may sound, it was possible for these women because of the women of the civil rights movement and the second wave of feminism before them. And of course, it was possible because of the women of World War II before them and every generation before them. So when I look at International Women's Day, I think of generations of women empowering other women. I'm reminded of my grandmother who worked for Pan American Airlines, who in the 1940s as a stewardess had to choose between getting married or continuing her career because she couldn't do both. I think of my mother who gained entrance into Cornell University in the 1970s, but when they found out she was a mother, they turned her down. And yet she still went on to become a clinical scientist. When I look at the women that I research and I interview, something that unites us all, regardless of our race, our class, our ethnicity, our sexuality, is the fact that as women entering male-dominated spaces, we have had to be that age-old quote, rarely do well-behaved women make history. We have had to persevere in a space that had been left closed to us. So when I think of International Women's Day, I think of that empowerment. And I think that of the generations that came before me and the subversive activity of which they engaged in a world of which they were told they were weaker, they weren't as smart, they couldn't do it. And yet they did it. They persevered. And when I think about what it means to be a woman in 2022, and unfortunately what it will mean to be a woman even after 2022, that perseverance will still be paramount to International Women's Day, will still be extremely necessary for us to take a moment and to think back of the shoulders of which the women who came before us, of which we climb, and of the inroads they made, the sacrifices they made, the choices that they made and the choices that they weren't allowed to make. And when I think of what it means to be a woman, I think of still overcoming that and how one of the great things about being a woman is to prove people wrong. And that, on International Women's Day, is still pretty hardcore.
I forgot, my sister, to tell you one more thing. My story is still being written. I'm still writing the chapters. And so is your story. It's not over. Stay encouraged, and you have everything you need.